How's it going, Laser Bruce's up? I'm Sixkilla. Welcome back to Choices That Matter. And the sun went out. I was actually planning to take the day off from recording, but I just had this spike. I've been spending all my time playing Yakuza like a dragon, as you probably noticed on the channel. That's pretty much all I've been doing. It is absolutely amazing, but I just had this thought. I really want to do story time today. So we're gonna settle in for some chill as story time. Because I miss it. I miss just chilling out with story time. I can't exactly remember where we are. It's been a few days since I recorded this last. But I know we just got away from Victor Santiago and his island and pissed him off and he left. Let's call Etienne for advice. He's always trustworthy. Moti tried again and again to call Etienne, but without success. I helped myself to a free breakfast and tried to think. What's so special about me? Sharon asked her a mouthful of cereal. That's right, Sharon's like the Antichrist to them now, so they want to get her. She's the one that they want to sacrifice to bring the sun back. Are you fishing for compliments now? I asked. She shook her head, then swallowed her mouthful. After the first mob murder, I shouted a question, something like, "You killed her, so now where's the sun?" "I remember," I said. "That's when his guards took you." She nodded. Everyone there was thinking the same thing. If murdering someone brings back the sun, where is it? "And now you're public enemy number one," I said, for asking an obvious question. "The solution to the victorious is obvious," she said. "Obviousness. I just need to be louder." "Mr. Santiago has announced another sacrifice will take place at noon today, in front of the Sistine Chapel." "At the Vatican," said Sharon. "He's really poking the crocodile in the eye, isn't he? Which is exactly what we're going to do to him." She ran from the room and came back in sneakers. "I love a good ceiling painting," she said. "You coming or what?" Of course. Let's do it. We stole a car to save time, leaving 50 euros and an apology note in the glove box, where we were, and a box of chocolates. We were within running distance of the chapel. The streets are already packed, and we hoped our vehicle didn't end up torched. That would be rude, and entirely our fault. I thought about how to break the hold Santiago had on people. What we really needed was the sun to come back, and fast. It's been out for ages this time. Unfortunately, it didn't oblige. No. "That kid, Umi," I said. "He seemed to think the sun would come back, and Jonathan talked about hope just before he died. And you never give up. You're so normal." "Oh yeah," she said, her red hair streaming behind her like a flag. "What's your big idea then?" "We make our own propaganda featuring you. Yeah, that'll stop them murdering you." "I'm listening," she said, elbowing us people aside to get closer to the front. "Where do we start?" "Right here," I said, "in the middle of everyone. People are ugly in a mob, but if they saw themselves, they'd be ashamed. Moti, film as many faces as you can." "Filming now, teacher." "Make sure you film Sharon's face," I said quietly. Everything's on there. Compassion, kindness, courage. I followed her here, and others will follow her too, when they get to know her through film. "Yes, teacher, I understand now." Santiago appeared on another black-clad stage. His production team was getting quicker, rolling out the stage and screens faster than I could pick a lock. In seconds, he dragged a priest on stage. The young man wept, but he looked at all the guards surrounding him and knelt to pray instead of trying to fight. "Moti," I whispered, "film him, as close as you can. Cut Santiago out of the frame. Like he's an afterthought. It's that boy that matters now." "Are we going to save him, teacher?" "No, Moti," I said softly. "Not this time." "Doesn't his life matter to you?" Sharon broke away from me, jumping up and climbing on the tightly packed shoulders of the crowd until they bore her forwards, not even realizing what they were doing. "Miss Sharon, what are you doing?" "I'm not afraid," she yelled. "The sun's coming back." Sharon's sunglasses had fallen off, her injured eye visible. What was she doing? Victor would kill her, like he did Jonathan. "Sharon, stop!" I yelled, and tried in vain to push past the crowd towards her. She was getting further and further away from me. My heart leapt out of my chest. I desperately tried to think of a way to stop Sharon hurling herself into danger. The young priest looked up to see the red-headed Australian crowd surfing towards him with outstretched arms, and he reached out his hand. "Moti, film her no matter what." "We can't stop her. Sharon flew over the crowd over a mass of human hate so dense it became suddenly ludicrous when people instinctively lifted their arms to help her sail above them. She was heading straight for the stage and gaining speed. "I'm not afraid," she yelled. "The sun will come back." Her new red hair came loose and streamed under her, shining like blood in the light of hundreds of fireflies that appeared out of nowhere to surround her like a chorus of light. She was going to get herself killed. She knew it and she didn't care. The crowd sent her right into the arms of the young priest Santiago had chosen as his victim of the day. Santiago must have chosen a priest deliberately, spitting in the eye of the Catholic Church to punish them for believing in a god that wasn't him. The priest saw Sharon and reached out his hands. Even more fireflies appeared, covering Sharon and the doomed priest in light. They flew towards Santiago, but bounced off him, as if his skin was poisonous. Sharon looked up at them and smiled. They settled on her red hair like a living halo. Sharon grabbed the priest's outstretched hands, and the pair of them spun out into the crowd, which opened up and swallowed them whole. The fireflies flowed out among the people, spreading so evenly it looked as if each person carried a single bright light. On the giant screens all around us, Santiago's oversized face twisted in confusion and rage. He lifted his gun. Shit. "Teacher, run!" Santiago shot into the crowd, his face steady and cold, multiplied to grotesque size all around us. It took a moment for the reality to sweep over the crowd. There was a sudden audible intake of breath. Then gunshots. Then screaming. "Teacher, do not get trampled." I moved with the crowd, pushing back when it pushed me and following where it led. Sometimes I felt my feet lose contact with the ground and I was carried along. I grabbed shoulders and bags and hair so I didn't fall underfoot when gravity pulled on me again. Where was Sharon? Where would she go to find me? What if she'd been shot? The crowd thinned at last and I was lost on a random Italian street. I could still hear screaming, and many of the people hurrying past had bloodied hands, knees, and faces. It wasn't a safe place. Back to the car. The car was gone. I was furious. How dare someone steal our stolen car? Hoping against hope that Sharon had taken it, but knowing she'd never leave me behind, I headed back to our temporary place of residence. I hesitated outside, terrified I'd find nothing. Terrified Sharon would never laugh at me again. But my fears were unfounded. Sharon ran out to meet me, her hair turned blonde again, and still wet from its treatment. How dare you risk your life like that? I blinked, startled at Moti's fury. What have you gotten yourself killed? Who am I going to build ramps for now? Moti, said Sharon. Are you alright? No! Sharon glanced at me for reassurance, but Moti, I didn't die, I'm fine, see? Your teacher's fine too. I'm not worried about teacher right now. You scared me. Please, please don't ever do that again. Said Sharon, lifting her hands as if to comfort Moti, but not knowing how. I cleared my throat. Actually, I'm not fine either. Sharon scowled at me. What was I supposed to do? Let the poor kid just die in front of me? My eyes felt dry and scratchy, as if I'd cried out all my tears. I don't know. Maybe. Sharon frowned in concentration, choosing her words carefully. If I'm ever able to stand and watch someone get murdered in front of me, then I may as well be dead, because I won't be Sharon anymore. I bit my lip, trying to find a weakness in her argument. I failed. It didn't help that Moti failed too. Now's not a good time to go to hospital, I said, before your eye gets infected. Now's a good time to go to hospital. It's been feeling a bit dodgy, she admitted, and we went together right away. Among the gunshot victims and panicked cult members at the hospital, no one gave us a second look. When we were finally able to see an English-speaking doctor, she lectured Sharon at length for not coming sooner. Then she removed a few pieces of grit from her eye, applied cream and a patch, and gave us some pills to take. Give it to me straight, Doc, said Sharon. Do I need to give up my taxi business and become a pirate? Said the doctor. No, not at all. You'll be able to open it in a little in a few days, and should be fully recovered in a couple of weeks. You may need glasses, however. Remove the patch in 2 days, take your pills, and get your vision tested. You hesitated. I said, what were you going to say? She pulled on a curl of her hair. I was going to say avoid bright sunlight, but, well, She waved at the black square of the window. Oh, I said, well, thank you. If the sun comes on, don't look at it. Looking up at the dark sky, it occurred to me that it had been over a week since the sun had gone out. Was it ever coming back? People seemed to be losing hope that it was coming back, even the victorious. I wondered if Santiago had finally lost his charm. Cool Domino, yeah. She's got him, right? Putting you through now, teacher. Hello, came Domino's voice. Have you killed him yet, I asked. Not yet, she said, but your Australian friend was very helpful. The tide is turning. Turning, I said? He just opened fire on his own followers. Settle down, she said sharply. It's under control. How many people have died since I paid you? I yelled at her. Not enough, apparently, she said tartly. Don't contact me again. I know what I'm doing. Spread the most recent film we recorded online. Yes, teacher. I'll begin at once. Would you like to see the edited film? Yes, thank you, Moti. I synced Moti with the TV and watched as the horrific scene replayed in glorious high definition. Sharon looked like an angel and Santiago like a devil. A woman I'd never consciously seen was chanting for Santiago, holding her infant daughter, and then she caught sight of Sharon and bit her lip. Moments later, the shot turned to slow motion as Santiago began shooting into the crowd. As the woman's concern turned to terror, she turned to shield her child a moment too late. A bullet entered the frame with agonizing slowness, heading for the baby. Oh no, said Sharon, pale as milk. No, 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 no. The bullet struck the baby in the cheek, tracing a red line across her face and exposing the naked gums underneath. Abruptly, the sound came back on. A screaming crowd, a screaming mother, a screaming baby. Then confusion as the crowd ran to escape their murderous leader. A few moments later, the screen went black. Is that baby alright? She is still in surgery, teacher. Moti, I said, trying to shake the horror off the film. That was excellent. It's the kind of film that could change people's minds about Santiago. Thank you, teacher. How did you edit out all the fireflies, I asked. There were no fireflies, teacher. Yes, there were, I said. Shazza, I know you saw them. I remember you looking up and smiling at them. She shook her head at me. You must have been too far away to see clearly. I was smiling at the little stars. I kept my mouth shut, waiting for her to hear how ridiculous she sounded. You mean the owls, Miss Sharon? No, she said. Stars. They weren't the owls. Are you trying to be funny? I'm telling the truth. We all saw something, I said, and on the video nothing shows up. Sharon sat back. So what does it mean? What are they? Are they something to do with Santiago? No, we all said at once. Even Moti. They followed the crowd because they were curious. They tried to understand Santiago, but failed. I remember how they sort of bounced off him, I said, but I wouldn't have read so much emotion into their actions. They told me what they felt. What do you mean? I said, unable to keep the skepticism from my voice. The owls talked. What language did they use? Binary. Robot owls? Okay, I said. There's something seriously peculiar going on. Agreed, said Sharon. What do you think they are? Sharon turned towards me but addressed Moti. Tell us everything you know about them. I like them. Where are they? I asked. How can we contact them? I do not know. I've talked to them a few times, but only when the sun was out. So they're connected somehow to the sun, I said. It is possible, but not definite. I dragged a hand through my hair. The owl star firefly things represented some kind of breakthrough, but I had no idea what to do about them, or what they meant. Moti, what do you think they are? I asked. They are owls. Owls don't talk, Moti. They talk to me, teacher, not you. Of course, Moti, my mistake. I have an idea. Go on, Moti. I think you understand the owl things better than any of us. My hypothesis is that they are normal owls, but when the sun is out, we see them differently. Why? I said. How? I do not know. Real physical stars also change their appearance when the sun is out. Based on the photos we now possess, the stars have not shifted position, yet they appear different. Are we in some different reality? I don't know, teacher. Do you think they want to stop Santiago? I asked. Yes, teacher. They are kind. Can they bring back the sun? I asked. No, teacher. They are just owls. Then why are they here and how can they talk to you? Why are these owl creatures here and how can they be talking to you? I asked Moti. I do not know, but I shall investigate. Unlike other animals, owl behavior has not changed by any measurable amount since the sun outages events began. This has been observed in every zoo on every continent. I said. Good job, Moti. Thank you, teacher. So, said Sharon, what do we do next? Is our friend Domina going to earn that €1,000,000 anytime soon? It's possible that trusting the Mafia was an error of judgment on my part, I admitted. Sharon shrugged. We'll see. Please attempt to discover where Santiago is staying. Security cameras show that Mr. Santiago is located in an open square in the center of town. I believe he's setting up for another rally. Already. We can get there early, said Sharon, her eyes glowing with the thrill of a chase. I sighed at her. In Santiago's eyes, she was the prey, not the hunter. I shivered with a premonition of harm. As if I needed a premonition, with Santiago specifically targeting my friend. Use the extra time to get a good vantage point. We used an array of public vehicles to get us to the center of town as quickly as possible. Do you think this is it? Sharon asked me, breathless with excitement. Do you think this is the day people finally turn against Santiago? Sure, I said, only half listening. Maybe. Fireflies were scattered sparsely around the area. A group of them were lined up on the edge of a nearby roof. Moti, do you see something over on that roof? Yes, teacher. There are a row of owls staring at us. Did you know Flying Fools had a legend about a dream place, where wise village elders would consult the stars for their divinations? These stars would take the shape of spirit owls and speak to the village elders in the dream place. I see, I said slowly. Flying Fools has legends. I wasn't sure what to think of it. It sounded nonsensical, but given what was happening with the firefly owls, which did look like stars when viewed from below, I wondered if I was somehow in the dream place right now. That could explain why I saw fireflies, while Sharon saw stars and Moti saw owls. The crowds thickened around us like sauce on a stove. I shook my head. I shouldn't be distracted. We had Santiago to deal with. We wriggled through small gaps, struggling to stay close as we cut through the mess of people. Soon we had a brilliant vantage point of the corner office of some high-up office worker who would probably be furious when he realized someone had moved all the framed portraits of his bulldog to one side. A few other rallygoers had also managed to get inside and were staking out their own sections of plate glass windows so they could see the foreshortened figure of Santiago on his stage, as well as keeping good views on the ubiquitous giant screens all around the square, facing both inwards and outwards. Give up on Domina and make our own plan. Don't worry so much, Sharon said with a shrug. She'll be right. The Victorious had changed. Not so long ago, they'd been desperate supplicants throwing themselves on Santiago's lavish promises of sunlight and safety. Now they darted quick, suspicious glances at one another and at Santiago. The sparkle had dulled, and they weren't quite as taken with their cult or its leader. They still hoped he held the answers, but they knew he was a snake that could turn on them at any moment. Moti, I said, did you hack those giant screens and play a video? Yes, teacher. Play the video you took at the last rally. Yes, teacher. Moments later, Moti's handiwork was being displayed on every giant screen in the square, and presumably by news networks all around the world. It was absolutely riveting, even though I'd seen it before with my own eyes. It began to play a second time and the screens went blank. Teacher, I've lost control of the screens. A moment later, Sharon's face appeared, huge and grotesque, with her mouth open in a shout. Ooh, said Sharon. They didn't even get my good side. Shazza, I rounded on her. You can't just... Even as I turned to tell her off about being so careless of her own safety, a pair of golden-eyed men shouted and ran toward us. Shazza, I yelled, too shocked for more. Before she even saw them, the two men lifted her off her feet, as if she weighed nothing, and rushed away with her. Sharon bucked and twisted, but she couldn't break free. She bit their hands and kicked their faces, but they didn't appear to notice. Make for the stage to intercept her. I ran, my chest scraping with cold air and hard breathing, but after a few steps, there were too many people and I was barely inching forwards. Everyone moved out of Sharon's way, pushing me backwards, without even knowing I was there. Shazza, I yelled, I'm coming for you. The men tossed her up on the stage, leaping up easily to take hold of her again. I saw fireflies dipping and swirling around her, massing in an orbit as if to shield her from harm. The two men walked through the glowing cloud and it dispersed. In the same instant, the giant screens focused on Sharon's furious face. The black curtains behind her swept open. Santiago strolled onto center stage. Santiago and a gun. The anger dropped away from Sharon's face as she stopped struggling and stared straight at the camera, begging silently for help. She didn't look like herself. She was afraid. Her face aged in front of me, flashing enormous grief and fear before settling into the grim acceptance of total defeat. I saw the moment she remembered her daughter, and she raised her hands as far as she could, with two men gripping her wrists and forearms like steel cuffs. I pushed and shoved through a wall of people, not caring who I hurt. 1 step. 2. I had no idea what to do when I reached her. I just had to reach her. She looked right at the closest camera and used the very tips of her fingers to draw her phone out of her pocket and push a button. Miss Sharon is calling us, teacher. Answer her. I'm putting Miss Sharon through on speaker now. Listen carefully, Sharon said. Do not interrupt. There is no time. Understood, I said, but there was so much more I wanted to say. Tell Chrissy from me not to be afraid. Tell her I love her and I'm sorry. She was right about me being stupid and to keep whizzing about taking risks. Tell her she still looks good in purple, no matter what she thinks. Tell her to be happy, or I'll be right pissed at her. Don't say your goodbyes, I begged her. Think of something. Do something. I'm coming. Don't, she said. On the massive screens, she suddenly wasn't looking right into the camera anymore. Go away, be safe, save the world for me. And if you don't have a long and happy life, I'll be right pissed, I said for her, trying desperately to think of what to do. Too right, she said, choking on her words. On the giant screens, her lower lip trembled, as if she was a child about to cry. Santiago smiled and pressed the gun to her forehead. Moti, I said, trembling with fury. Put this message on the screens with translations underneath. Yes, teacher. Don't hurt her, I'll do anything you want. Sharon looked right at the camera again, knowing exactly who put that message up on the screens for everyone to see. Her mouth worked as if she was trying to smile, but couldn't quite do it. Her eyes filled with unshed tears, and she bowed her head in surrender. The single white spotlight on her and Santiago expanded, showing the grim face of the two men holding her. It flooded the entire stage, showing the wrinkles and creases and stagehands tape holding it all together. Whiter still, it blinded the victorious closest to the stage, showing their features in such detail that I felt I'd remember their faces for the rest of my life. Then it filled the square with light, throwing blade-sharp shadows and making the buildings glow as if they were freshly made. It wasn't the spotlight. It was the sun. I felt familiar warmth on my face. Sunlight. Teacher, teacher, the sun! I looked up and was instantly dazzled. My eyes stung and streamed with tears. I blinked and blinked, looking at the stage, looking for Sharon. She was weeping for joy, made even more beautiful as the sun shone on her tears. With infinite gentleness, she slipped her arms out from the slack hands of her captors. As tenderly as a new mother, she took the gun from Santiago's hands and passed it off to someone off stage. Why didn't you shoot him then? Moti, I whispered. Another message. In all the most common local languages, please. Yes, teacher. The sun loves you, Sharon. Goodbye, Victor. How are we going to deal with Victor? Are we going to shoot his ass? My words appeared in enormous black and white all around the square. Sharon really did smile this time. Dozens of owls flew away to whatever nests and perches they preferred during the day. It was day. Real daylight. At last. Sharon winked at me via the camera, then jumped neatly off the stage into the crowd, heading away from Santiago. Santiago stood slack-jawed, staring at the sky with eyes already red and weeping, since he didn't have the good sense to look away. His men were long gone. Someone yanked hard on the black cloth that covered the stage, and a long strip of black duct tape gave way, exposing a hole. Others joined them, stripping the stage bare and shredding the cheap black cloth. Santiago stepped backwards, looking back and forth like a trapped deer. Some of the cloth caught onto the far corner of the chipboard and wouldn't budge. People pulled harder. The whole stage creaked audibly, then cracked in two. Santiago fell over and slid down the splintery wood toward the people that had come in droves to see murder committed. Someone had a gun. I heard the shot and saw Santiago's face on dozens of enormous screens as the bullet struck. He covered his bloody face with both hands, wailing in agony. His microphone was still switched on, and his death screams spewed out from all the surround sound speakers set in clusters across the square. He was shot again, this time in the chest. His blood bubbled out of him. People surrounded him. They punched and kicked him, stripping off his jacket and shoes and tie, and then trampling him as more of the crowd pushed inexorably forwards. The closest camera dropped onto the ground, watching one last shot of Santiago's lifeless body as the crowd pressed on towards Vatican City. They didn't notice that he was under their feet and already past any further punishment or pain. I saw someone drop their gun beside his body, just a glimpse of a well-manicured hand and the leg of a tailored suit. The leg walked away, leaving Santiago to rot under the glorious sun. Moti, please call Sharon. Right away, teacher. Poor Mr. Santiago. I let that comment slide, since I wasn't charitable enough to comfort Moti about Santiago's death. Calling Sharon now. I apologize, teacher. The phone lines are extremely busy at present. I cannot reach Miss Sharon. Don't worry, Moti, I said, staring at the fine lines on my hands and marveling at the level of detail. She's sure to be... Did you miss me? It was Sharon. I threw myself at her in a bear hug. She returned it, holding on an unusually long time. I confess I was a teensy bit concerned for a moment there. I don't know what it would have done if the sun hadn't returned in time, I said. Didn't I tell you she'd be right? She said. Yes, actually you did, I admitted. So, gelato? I breathed in and the air already felt warmer. It took 3 weeks for the sun to return this time. 3 weeks. Around us, people were throwing their coats and beanies away, then stretching out their newly bared arms to soak in every possible ray of sun. A news team scrambled to set up, then filmed the most ordinary shots. Shadows on the sidewalk, light on a leaf, a woman wearing sunglasses. They knew every shot would be riveting once the sun had set at night. Sharon laughed delightedly and led me to her favourite gelato place. She already had a favourite gelato place. I've tried every flavour at least twice, she said. Which one do you want? Surprise me. Sharon glowed in the sunshine. She looked larger than life after 2 weeks of artificial light. People kept interrupting us to hug Sharon or kiss her cheeks or thank her for standing up to Santiago. One man vigorously shook her hand, forgetting he was still wearing golden contact lenses. I enlightened him about his lenses, and he took them out at once, stamping them underfoot. I can't take much more of this, said Sharon. You're right, I said. It's time to leave Rome, but where will we go? She pursed her lips. Nowhere alpine. There's lots of extra ice up there nowadays, and all the extra is about to melt. There'll be flooding. Nowhere coastal either, I said. Having the ocean go so far down, so far and then up again would be chaos. Sand isn't known for its ability to resist erosion. You're right, she said. I remember the firefly shining around Sharon when she was so close to death, and I remembered suddenly seeing owls fly away when the sun returned. I found myself checking my phone and realized I was expecting Dolores to call. If she was trying, she wasn't getting through. I smiled. There were some upsides to having the world's communications technology as collateral damage. I need to find Etienne and get the diary sections he's translated so far. Yeah, we gotta stop it happening again. It's come back this time, but what happens next time? Okay, she said with that devil-may-care smile. We fell silent, just looking at the world with sunlight. A woman shouted something about Santiago right in front of us and punched another woman in the mouth. The second woman touched her bleeding lip, looking around herself in sudden fear. She still had golden eyes. A sudden hush fell on the area, and then suddenly more people were yelling at the yellow-eyed woman, who definitely shouted back. The blonde woman threw aside her chair and snatched up a butter knife. Sharon and I both leapt to our feet. Suddenly all eyes turned our way, for one crucial instant. Stop! No more killing! The golden-eyed woman suddenly realized the danger she was in. She turned and fled. Our best option was obviously to use the ship Dolores had on retainer for me, so we'd arranged a best time and place to get on board. Remind me, said Sharon. The oldest is Francine, the captain, then Bianca, the navigator, then Karina, the cook. Got it first go, I said, although all of them do everything really. Engine maintenance, lookout duty, swabbing the deck, shooting dangerously crazed sea creatures in the endless darkness, all the usual nautical things. I see you're a nautical expert, said Sharon. I've, swabbed, I said. That means mopping, right? More or less. We spent hours just getting a taxi, but somehow it didn't matter. The sun had returned. Bianca usually slept during the afternoons and kept watch at night, but even she was awake and basking in the sun when we finally arrived. Francine brought out a bottle of celebratory scotch and we all partook. Soon I felt wonderfully warm inside and out. Francine was the ship's owner and the older sister, and she dressed like a CEO, except that she left her long black hair loose when the ship was docked. The rest of the time it swung around her in a single long plait. Tell me, she said, how much longer can someone like you continue to work for the company? I'm not complaining, but it seems to me you're too much of a hero type to survive in a business where money is more important than life. As long as it takes to get the sun fixed. The beginning of our journey was mercifully uneventful. I attempted repeatedly to contact Etienne, but our best phone call gave me just one word: Turkey. Presumably that meant he was in Turkey, not that I was a turkey, or that he wanted me to bring some turkey with me. I told Francine to head east, and to take us to the city of Antalya. Egypt has completely closed its borders. I sat with head in hands, wondering what to do next. Perhaps Etienne planned for us to meet in Turkey. Perhaps he meant for us to travel through Turkey rather than risk the deeper sea in the middle of the Mediterranean, where the danger from panicked sea creatures was highest. All I knew was that he thought I should go to Turkey. Probably. So that's what I told Francine, who informed me that we'd be sailing close to the coast all the way, making Sicily a significant obstacle. Fine, I said, you know what you're doing. Sicily was one enormous party, sitting in the grey area between celebration and riot. The three sisters saw the chaos on shore and decided we all needed to stop in Sicily overnight. A few clouds passing over the sun made everyone jump, but when people looked up and saw all was well, our piratical guides redoubled the effort to dance and drink the day into history. A man pressed a full bottle of tequila into my hand and gave a sack of quartered limes to Bianca. Francine confiscated both until we had a good table. We toasted one another over and over again, and Carmine did the best to teach us some useful phrases that were the Italian equivalent of bottoms up. 6 drinks in, even Sharon was struggling with the language barrier, but somehow it didn't seem to matter anymore. Teacher, the men at the table near the cafe door do not look as happy as everyone else. Based on their body language, they're discussing Miss Francine and her sisters. Ask Bianca who they are. When Bianca went to get another round of drinks, I went with her and carefully drew her aside. Let me guess, he said, you're worried about the beardy table. They certainly seem very concerned about your family, I said. We've met, she said. I waited for details and was disappointed. Bianca smirked at me and let me schlep the tray back to the table. Alright, we're going to wrap this one up because we're out of time again for today, but the sun is back, so that's one good thing, although we still don't know what's causing it or how to fix it. I mean, Santiago's dead. I don't know what's going to happen with the story now because, like, he was the big baddie and now he's gone. So I guess we'll see what happens. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.